Archaeologists stunned. Happy Mondays, everybody. Happy Monday to you, whoever you are.
Yes, I hope you're keeping warm.
And very well, as ever. It's Monday Moot time. Michael here.
And Rupert here, as if you didn't know.
Yeah. A slightly cold Rupert, I do believe. Am I not mistaken?
It's pretty nippy down here. Yes, it really is. One of the things that makes winter so glorious down here is that even when it's bitterly cold, the skies are clear and blue and the sun shines. So it is. It's lovely and sunny out there.
Yes. You've got a mountain in your backyard, haven't you?
A mountain in my backyard.
Yes.
Well, if you walk away from the house and look backwards, you can see the mountain climbing up behind us. Yes.
Yes. I just thought I'd paint a little picture here. Yes.
It is lovely. Yes, and if I look out of my studio window here, I'm looking down the valley and towards the Pyrenees, and it's lovely.
Okay.
Lovely.
Well, that was your Monday Moot. About how wonderful life is down in the south of France. Me, I'm looking out over rooftops here, and it is very cold, but I don't think I can hold a candle to what's going on down there. Anyway, enough of this banter. On with an actual moot. Archaeologists stunned. Yeah. How often have you seen that in a headline? I seem to have picked up on it particularly just recently, a lot. And I had a rant, a mini rant on
that was
Thursday.
On the live broadcast, wasn't it? Yeah.
On the live broadcast, yeah. The question time. I don't know what brought it up, but it seemed that the Daily Express particularly had been using that little phrase and being misleading. I mean, obviously it's clickbait. And you go through to the article, and so many times we were finding that it's something. Well, they might have been slightly amazed way back when, but the article's completely out of date. It's weird.
I think that's one of the shameful things about all this, isn't it? That it's bad enough that it's clickbait in the first place. Archaeologists stunned, or any variation that you choose. You can look for archaeologists amazed, archaeologists astonished. You'll get something different each time. But as if that's not bad enough to be willfully clickbaity, that they then give you the most ridiculous one. That when we decided that we were going to talk about this, I had a quick look back, and archaeologists stunned by astonishing ancient Greek computer that shouldn't exist. And this is dated from January 2022, so it's new in the paper. And this astonishing ancient Greek computer is the Antikythera mechanism that was discovered in 1901. So, just what is their excuse for that?
Desperation, I would say.
It's just
a slow news day.
But so slow that they needed to go back 100 years. It's just unbelievable.
Yeah.
They're naughty people.
So, we thought we'd have a general discussion about this, about how prehistoric archaeology and archaeology generally, I suppose, or even science generally is represented in the press, and how headlines are made out of breakthroughs and discoveries, and what sort of general impression at the end of the day the public may or may not be left with as a result of slapdash, a bit of slapdash and clickbaitery and all that kind of thing. Because I think it has an effect over time, personally. I think there are ups to it, and I think there are downsides to it. What's your kind of take, first off?
I don't have a problem really with clickbait. I don't. I think that
speaking as those who have perpetrated it from time to time.
Well, I think on the basis that okay, for people who are interested in a subject, then they don't need the clickbait. It's not aimed at them. But certainly for the general public, that they're not interested in things half of the time unless it absolutely slaps them in the face. So I can understand the relevance of clickbait from that point of view. What I really dislike is the dishonesty that then goes along with it sometimes. So when people make out, like I just mentioned, the Antikythera mechanism there, that if they give the impression that something has just been discovered, and apart from anything else, it can make the archaeologists look stupid. But there's stuff that it's just, if you're not keeping it real, that the purpose of science is to expand human knowledge on the basis of evidence of new knowledge. And for me, journalists' responsibilities are to disseminate that knowledge. And if they're disseminating dishonesty, then on what basis do you believe anything that they say ever? And I know that we might all laugh about that and say, well, we don't. But the thing is that people do. People read the front page of a newspaper and it'll be saying something terrible about whoever. And if you know that one thing in the newspaper is a lie, or at least less than honest, then on what basis do you believe any of it?
Yeah. Yeah, and when in this day and age, where we feel that there's very much of an erosion of public trust in science, I can't help but think that over time of the amount of time that this kind of clickbaity thing has been in existence, that there's been a corrosive effect. It belittles what the perception that people have of what scientists do and what they're up to, because this archaeologists stunned, archaeologists amazed, makes them out to be not quite with it, or sort of like nature's always got one over on them.
Yeah.
And that they weren't expecting to look, to find what they were looking for, where they were looking. And often enough, it's quite the contrary.
Yeah.
The discovery was actually quite expected.
Yes.
In most, obviously there are, revelations that, change things, but for the most, those don't happen very often.
No,
the
surprise is the other way around, isn't it?
Yeah.
That, archaeologists set out to search for something, or to learn something about X. It would be more of a surprise if they didn't. So if they were trying to excavate, a long barrow or whatever, it would be more honest to say archaeologists just astonished not to find. Not that they're astonished with the discovery that they have made. It's bizarre.
But the amount I've seen archaeologists stunned recently, I expect to see queues of them on, going into A&E.
It's intriguing. But here's a curious thing, though. Why is it? Well, because you have this all the time. Archaeologists stunned by, archaeologists amazed by. You never see a headline that says mathematicians astonished by, or doctors astonished by. You don't see that. What is it about archaeology that makes journalists think that there should be this permanent state of astonishment?
Yeah. Very, very, really, really good point. Because I think this is the illusion that it gives, that archaeologists are merely people digging in the earth. And are always going to be surprised by what they find. You sort of see what I mean?
Yeah.
And it gives a kind of false equivalency to, well, this is anybody's game as far as, what's right and what's wrong in archaeology.
But the thing is that, if you extend that to, so take one of the realms of science now where new discoveries are being made all the time, and that's astronomy. And you don't see headlines saying astronomers astonished to discover a new black hole in such and such. They will say astronomers have just discovered a new black hole or a new planet orbiting this distance or what have you. But there's never any astonishment involved.
Oh, well, yeah, it's a very, very good point. And you've made that point afresh, so I don't have a sort of counter to that, or but yeah, it's worth thinking about for sure. But the effects aren't all negative, though, Rupert. Look, it's been happy hunting grounds for us on more than a few occasions where we've seen, well, that headline's not never going to
something.
Be right.
Hold on a minute.
Oh, whoa there. I think the classic one for us was sailors built Stonehenge.
Yeah.
Something didn't ring quite right for us there. And, we dug a bit deeper, and long story short, the upshot was was a great interview with Bettina Schultz-Paulsen, who'd produced an enormous, wonderful paper about the origins of megalithic building in northwest France, in Brittany, in the Morbihan region. Yeah. And by what extrapolation, I don't know. I suppose there was some thread in it. Obviously, they must have come over the sea to get to here in 4000 BC or whatever it was, and then whatever 1500 years later got round to building Stonehenge. That there's a thread there, but it's not quite right, is it?
No, it's shabby. It's sloppy. It's almost as if it's almost as if the incumbents are actually school children. You've got to write an essay.
Well, yes, but there you are. But this is what I'm saying. I'm playing devil's advocate here. It got our attention.
It did,
and we had a look.
Yes, but the thing is that we are, to be fair, we are researchers for a good deal of the time, and the reason we looked at it was because we knew that it was silly. Yeah. It was like, on what basis are you saying this, you bunch of idiots, was more our attitude. I mean, you're right. It's clearly it's not all bad. But
so there is a balance to be struck, I'm sure. The trouble is, for me, headlines, I think, stick with people. People more remember the headlines and may read the article and so on and so forth. But I think, as I've said before, I think that the overall effect is insidious and diminishes the role of people who are, who by and large know what they're going to expect, or if they're looking for something, they're equivocal about whether they're going to find what they expect or whether they're going to find something that disproves what they expected. That is how the whole thing works. You look for something, both in science and in all the sciences. You look for something, hoping that your theory might be proved right, but equally happy if it's proved wrong, because that's nailed it. Then we've advanced. We can say, well, that isn't true. And rather than being in the state of, well, this could be true, but we don't know if it is. Then you you devise ways of finding out whether it is true or not.
Yes, so that's the thing. You see, you're talking about the science side of it. You're not talking about the sloppy journalist side of it. So, if you have a situation where, and I can't remember where it was, but this is one of the headlines that we laughed at a couple of years ago, that that it came up as a new whatever, I can't even remember properly, but a new long barrow, for example, new long barrow discovered in such and such, and it's complete and utter nonsense. It was something that was found 50 years before or something. Now the trouble is that the public at large don't read articles anyway. They read headlines and they share them on Facebook and what have you, and disseminate disinformation. And that, to me, is the danger, that you then have a load of people who believe that this new discovery has been made when it hasn't. So yeah, it's not wholly bad, but it's bad.
It makes people look like idiots for not expecting what was coming. Yes. over and over and over again, and in its own way contributes to this diminution in the public trust in science, I think.
I'll give you a lovely example of bad journalism, and this is again originally the Daily Express, because the Daily Express are probably amongst the worst of culprits. And this is not dreadfully prehistoric, but it's archaeologists stunned by ancient Myanmar monument that defies gravity. And it goes on about it's the Kyaiktiyo Pagoda. I think that I apologise for the pronunciation there, it's probably wrong. Anyway, it's a Buddhist site of pilgrimage in Myanmar. And this is archaeologists stunned by. And, well, this is a little pagoda that's been known about for Lord knows how long. I mean, centuries probably. There's nothing new about, archaeologists probably haven't even been and had a look, because there's nothing to, it's one of those balancing rock things, all right? But why would archaeologists be stunned by that? They wouldn't be. Anyway, that in itself is not the sloppy journalism. It's bad enough. But there is another paper called the Southeast Asian Archaeology, and they have repeated the headline, "Archaeologists stunned by ancient Myanmar monument that defies gravity." They have cited that it comes from the Daily Express on the 9th of January this year, 2022. And the first line of text is, "I have misgivings about reposting this article as there is no news in this story." But that didn't stop them posting it. So that they've said there's no news here, but I'll post that clickbait headline anyway, because it's shameful. It's just such sloppy
smacks of
journalism.
desperation, I think.
Yes,
something like that. So I think that's outlined our kind of.
I feel that we ought to have a conclusion, having had.
Oh yes, clickbaity journalism, good or bad?
Yeah. Answers on a postcard, please. Yeah.
I think I as people who have to draw attention, because we're in a competitive market. We the Prehistory guys, we do our YouTube channel, etc. We have to find ways of jumping up and down and drawing attention to.
We don't tell lies, though.
But we don't tell lies, and
what's more, if we make a mistake, we make a point of telling people that we've made a mistake.
Yeah. What was the big one I used? Was it 1,500-year-old shark attack? I think was one headline I used for one of our flashes or something like that. But I think that's about as far as I'll go, really.
Yeah, but that was true, though.
Yeah, but even so, it wasn't really false or anything like that, was it?
No, that's what I mean. There were no lies in that. It was just an exciting headline.
So we'll jump up and down and wave our arms and go over here, as best we can. But when I think there's a responsibility to how the actual science, how the actual work is done, and what actual archaeologists, how they actually work, how they actually respond to stuff they find in the ground. And absolutely, yes, some people complete lives are made out of the moment, the trowel reveals something from under the earth for the first time. I mean, Alice Roberts, who was granted getting a trowel in her hand for the first time in a long time, it seemed, on Digging for Britain, our TV series, the other week, having a moment because a trowel was uncovering this Roman mosaic for the first time. So yes, absolutely, there are moments like that, but they're human moments, and they're not really about the science. And grouping archaeologists all together, archaeologists stunned.
Yes. Yes, if it was archaeologists singular stunned to uncover something, well, you would be.
Yeah, then that's a personal story.
Yeah.
And it's not for the reasons that tend to be hinted at in these headlines. I think we've banged on enough about
we probably have. I think the bottom line for all of it is that the science is based on fact, and reporting of science should also be based on fact. And we expect, stupidly, we expect people to be, or to at least have some integrity and be honest about things. So when they're less than honest, it's just disappointing.
And to finish with, I think that journalists are missing a trick. Just before we started recording this, Sharon, my wife, said to me, "Did you know that archaeology has the highest reported rate of adultery? It is the profession with the highest rate of adultery."
Is that a fact?
Yes. Well, it was. I said, "What was your source from that?" She said, Woman's Hour. Oh, and Woman's Hour, if you don't know, that's a radio program on BBC Radio 4 we have over here.
Is that a fact?
Yeah. So it kind of doesn't surprise me, because
really?
Well, no, because
more than entertainers on cruise ships.
Well, yes, I was going to say, because I was an actor, and I was in the theatre for a while, and you get this unusual situation, doesn't happen in many other professions, where you get a sort of a medium-sized group of people all together, compressed into a small, area for weeks, months, and then they disperse after that. It's not like you're in a constant workplace meeting the
rock bands on tour.
That's kind of well, you'd have thought, yes, but it's the highest recorded rate.
Archaeologists, well, wow,
yeah,
wow,
so, yeah.
Who knew?
So
maybe we should start asking them.
So maybe journalists are missing a trick there as far as amazement is concerned. Stunned. Archaeologist's wife stunned. That's enough of that.
Yes.
Thank you for listening.
That's a slippery slope, isn't it? Yes. We'll see you next time, folks.
Have a good week. Bye-bye.
Bye.